Benjamin Sloan, Delish, Jessica Muller, Natisha Carter, you guys are the best. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. Let's get this video started.
You try to do your phone now, huh?
Ah! Did you get that?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was close. Hey guys, as my eternal mission to bore you, I'm going to talk about colubrids, and I'm going to bore Donnie. But let's talk about colubrids. So I'm known for, monitors and all sorts of pythons, ball pythons, I can't even say it, all sorts of different stuff because I love big, powerful constrictors. But that does not mean that colubrids and such have escaped my my sight and my vision. And I'm going to talk about a couple of ones that I really like. Right off the bat, we're going to talk about mangrove snakes. These are Boega latifasciata. So this is really cool. This is a mangrove snake from the Philippines. So this is venomous, but it's, first of all, the toxicity of the venom is recognized as being pretty mild, but more importantly, the venom, it's like setting up on me, the venom delivery system is unpressurized, so it would actually have to chew on you, and it's designed to, take out things like frogs and amphibians, largely, but I manage all this stuff, I don't get bit. And they're a little bit quick to react. So this is a female, and she's got follicles in her right now. So she's this is actually a young breeding adult sized female. An interesting thing about colubrids, so they lay eggs, and if you're really on point, a lot of colubrids actually will double clutch. And that means that they lay their primary clutch of eggs, and if everything's good, you can have a successive clutch of eggs. If I'm even breeding something like a Pueblo milk snake, you could sometimes have 3 clutches, maybe even a world record, not really a world record, but a record, 4 clutches. I think that is possible. And what that means is the female lays its first clutch of eggs, and if I get the food to it really quick, small incremental feedings, and then I get a male back into it with like the first 5 or 7 days, I actually might get a double clutch. So you can routinely do this with Sinaloans, Pueblo milk snakes, even Pituophis, like some pine snakes, like black pines or whatever. You can do it with mangrove snakes. You can do it with Gonosoma, Cephala, so red-tailed rat snakes. So she lays the eggs. I feed her a couple little meals, get like meals that are easy to digest, okay, not too big and all that. And then I put the male back 5 to 7 days with her, and then they breed, and I continue the feeding. And if everything goes right, she can actually have another clutch of eggs. If I don't do this, she'll lay the first clutch of eggs, and I might not put a male back with her or might not feed her enough. And sometimes people are finding they get a second clutch of eggs, and the fertility may be in question. You may get all duds because I didn't have the male back in there. But a really good idea is if you have a good supply of food for these guys, and the condition and the weight of the animal is justifiable for double clutching, you can try again. The negative of double clutching is if you do it into a female that is not in her prime, or maybe a year ago she went through a really hard time, it has some longevity, that period of stress, and sometimes they will not necessarily manage well through that second clutch. So you want to consider the safety of the animal, and then maybe refrain from another clutch. Tangerine Hondurans. This is a snake. This is a larger growing colubrid, very reproductive. There's also different color variants of these things. We have anarthrism, albinism, and amazingism. Because look at that. That is one heck of a snake. That is glorious. And to actually, why does a snake even look like this? Only thing I can, we all interpret that as, these surprising colors is a distraction for would-be predators, and it's imitating something that is indeed venomous and scary. But something like this, wonderful pet, great to breed, very straightforward as reproduction. These go through a cooling period. So why do we cool a lot of colubrids? So we have temperate species, which are North American colubridae, and those, let's say we're talking California king snakes, speckled king snake, eastern chain king, all that. So they will go through a period of hibernation or brumation. And that is a quiet period where it's cooler. They're not generally up on the surface, and they go quiet, nights are cool, and they'll go through a little dormancy period. What happens as the animal comes out of the dormancy period, it elevates the male's testosterone, which is what gives the animal the drive to actually breed. And that also is a good cue for things like a corn snake or whatever, cooling them down. That cue tells them to go into a reproductive mode. So that way we have the male with the rising testosterone, you have the corn snake with the developing follicles, put them together, they breed. We do the same thing in captivity on a lot of these things. But this is temperate species. If we're dealing with stuff like mandarin rat snakes, all sorts of like mangrove snakes, a lot of these animals will just go through a bump in the temperatures and they get a little bit cooler nights. Certainly with mandarins, you can actually just cool them down for a while to the lower part of their range. And another thing you can do is you shorten the light cycles. Did you know, most people don't know this, I used to be a colubrid breeder. That was how I started into all of this. I used to breed Durango Mountain Kings, or Theri, San Luis Potosi, Jalisco Mountain Kings, Arizona Mountain Kings. I failed at California Mountain Kings, they're just too small. Sinaloa milks, lots of Pituophis, northern pines, southern pines, black pines. So I still have a lot of that, different stuff. I have a lot of that interest. So I've never lost the affinity for these animals. I just get really easily distracted because I have complete attention deficit disorder. This is a Long Beach, California king snake. This, if you're trying to first get into breeding snakes, colubrids such as this, you see that? I could tell. I could tell what was going on. It's like, I want to eat.
What's up, man?
What are you gonna do? You gonna do it?
I think we just proved that all snakes are monsters, dude.
Yeah, hold on. Wow. So she smelled another snake on me. You gonna do it? That's so cute. She smelled another snake. I was playing with Arizona Mountain Kings. This is a great species to breed. Very reliable. The babies are a whiz to get eating. Arizona Mountain Kings, Gray Band, San Luis Potosi can be a little bit trickier because these guys want to initially eat lizards. And I always love to work with something that wants to eat rodents first. You can get black and white ones, which we call, so this would be a banded California king snake. And the black and white ones we call desert phase. But these guys, I can just put these guys together and they pretty much, they're probably so, he's already smelling. I don't even know what I'm doing. This was not the plan. So she wants, her objective right now is to eat. Eat, because she has developing follicles. So all she's interested in doing right now is eating. But we had that male, he was definitely on point. See, look at that. Okay, that's breeding behavior. He's starting to try to ride up on her. So I could probably put these in a bin and give him a few.
What are you doing in this bin?
All right, so what's really good, this female is lifting her tail. And so that's a really good receptive female. So we'll have breeding shortly. So this is another Boega. This is Cyanea. So these are really cool when they're born. They look very, very different. They got these little orange heads. So this is what we're shooting for. When we have a nice, beautiful animal like this, she's full of eggs.
Now, Kevin, how do you know? You just look at it?
I can palpate.
Okay.
And you feel if you're very gentle with your thumb like this and you go down, you feel like marshmallows. And when they're smaller, like the size of a marble, they feel more like a definitive lump. The trick is one finger on the spine, the other down, and I go like this. Boom. Boom. And usually if I get her crawling back into a cage right there, I can feel it really nice. So you can almost see the lumps. So this is a nesting situation. So what I've learned a little bit, sometimes when I'm breeding Boega and mangrove snakes, and just colubrids in general, they don't always use the nest lay box that I give them. So sometimes if you almost turn the cage into that kind of situation, then you can wet this with cocoa block and all that. And then that way, when they lay their eggs, they're safer. Because what's happened to me, I overlook something, don't check something for 2 days, and I come in there and there's a desiccated clutch. And these desiccate so quick. I'm actually gonna show you a clutch that I kind of screwed up on. So, all right, so here we have mangrove snakes. So these are divergens. And this is in a nest box scenario. So I give them a very deep layer of substrate, and he got a little He got a little nervous. Come here, buddy. Come here. So this little guy's upset. The lights and everything are just too much for his little brain. Okay, so this is a really good nesting situation. And I have a deep layer of substrate, so I have cocoa block, and then I'm also using this. But sometimes my females still miss it, and I think, oh, I put that in there and it's safe for them to lay eggs. Not always. So due diligence, just checking. So what's the breeding cycle like? Well, colubrids. So if I breed king snakes and whatnot, when the female ovulates within, roughly a week or so, depending on the ambient room temperature and all that, she will go into a shed. So that shed might be 10 days later. And then after she does her egg laying shed, it's 10 to 14 days generally for like most colubrids, like, king snakes and corn snakes and stuff like that. So her egg laying shed, so her post-ovulatory shed, so she ovulated, it's the shed after it. Pre-ovulatory shed is the shed that's before it. So post-ovulatory shed, after that, kind of right on your calendar, start watching that snake for laying behavior at 7 days. That's a really good idea. So it can anywhere between 7 and let's say 16 days is going to be your little window. Just check on them, make sure they didn't lay. A lot of times the laying's going to happen at night, so go back there and check it. And I'll show you what happens when I mess up. So I had a clutch of melanota times albino melanota, and she went to lay, and she ignored her lay box, and she laid them in the cage. So right off the bat, I got problems. So these eggs are roughly a week old. So you see the odd color? That's going bad. You see the green from Pseudomonas aeruginosa? That egg is good. That egg's bad. That egg's bad. So I see 2 eggs that are viable. And what happened was she did not lay them in the nest container. She actually laid them in a hide box. My mistake. I screwed up. So that's really sad, and that's a very valuable and important clutch of eggs. And I have another clutch of eggs right here. These were also, once again, ignored to where to lay them. And these were laid under the hide box, but I, after inflicting painful woes to myself, I went and checked. So I have another nice clutch. What's odd about mangrove snakes, they lay these big long eggs, but they don't have these massive clutches, but they have the ability to double clutch. So I know as soon as she lays her eggs, I've gone back to feeding her, and I go within 5 to 7 days, I'm putting that male back in there and getting them to breed. I'll show you another way to deal with a little bit fickle eggs. So sometimes we have eggs that are a little bit harder to incubate. That could be like indigo eggs and eggs that are sometimes not tolerant to a lot of moisture touching them. They need a good moisture content, they need moisture available, but direct exposure to that moisture is always a little bit of a question. So in that case, I put these into a bin of water. See this?
Yep.
So I'm floating these in a bin of water. Then I have my hatch right material, and it's a big dense amount of this. Okay, so there's available moisture to these eggs, but I don't want to like just put a lot of moisture in this bin. So floating them in this other bin with air holes allows these eggs to have available moisture just from the air content. So these happen to be Yellowtail Crebo eggs. So that egg is great. They tend to be a little bit more like sandpaper. I do know there's a bad one in there. Okay, so here's a bad one. So this is garbage. So that was like an infertile. And these are, a month. So I got multiple. I haven't gone through these to pull my bad, but you want to get your bads out of there because there's no point. You need to have a lot of material that is a reserve of moisture for those eggs to draw from. If you don't do it, too small and it's too thin, it will dry out. You do not want your humidity to change. Going up and down is sure death for the eggs. This is a Chinese king rat. So, really cool snake. This is so much like a Pituophis. Very nervous, high-strung animals, but they're really remarkable. I love the black and yellow contrast. I'll show you an albino one of these.
Are you breeding these kids?
Yeah, these are, she's been breeding. So this is an albino Chinese king rat. It's just like this big albino pituophis, gopher snake, pine snakey kind of thing. Or Baja gopher. So this is the normal melanota, and this is a T-negative albino melanota. So these guys are together for breeding.
You try to do your phone now, huh?
Ah! Did you get that?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was close. Oof.
There you go.
Why are you doing that? So this is just, there's too much activity, but you get to see how wonderful they are.
You know, you could use a different lens on your camera, right, Kevin?
Hopefully, you want to see more things about snakes want to bite me in the face. Join my Patreon and see what the upper tier, the ones that are paying $25 for membership.
It's $9.99 a month.
$9.99 a month. Well, anyways, you get to see all of our B grade stuff, and I am all about B grade. But thank you very much for actually joining our Patreon. Of course, our dedicated YouTube audience. I love you guys. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for being interested in us. And hopefully what I'm telling you guys about and teaching, there's something that gets you guys a little amped up. like this snake.
Kevin, before we forget, we're going to be at AnimalCon August 26th through the 28th.
Okay, guys, like he said, we're going to be at AnimalCon. I guess I'm going to be on some panels telling people that I like turtles. And
Yeah.
I'm an animal freak.
I don't think Kevin has any idea what's going to happen at AnimalCon, and that's the best part. He has no idea what he's accomplished.
I don't have a clue. So hopefully you guys are following Evil Morph God on Instagram as well as New England Reptile, Donny Rapture, any of our social media stuff. We really appreciate it. Look at the blood vessels. See those veins?
Yeah, we can see all the blood vessels in there.
Whee!
I gotta turn my camera on, dude.
You didn't turn your camera.